have Joseph with us today. And we are very free, we're very open because God has transformed his life. Joseph became alcoholic and took us through the fire. And one of them is that as a leader, I was mentoring the men in one of the churches in St. Louis, being a good example, and they were not going to know that I have a son who is alcoholic. No, 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 they will not know, because we're going to fix him, and he will change. But the more we tried, the more we lost. One day, my son got drunk. He was in a theater. Police come. They call him a taxi driver to come and take this young man home. And guess who was the taxi driver? One of the men I was mentoring. Lord, what are you doing? I'm trying to keep them from knowing so they think I'm a good leader. But that was the beginning of a change in our lives. And so I'm going to ask Joseph to come forward and share briefly how God has changed his life. He's here on that mission.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. It's a very big pleasure to be here. I'm grateful as all get out, so thank you. So, true story, very true story. There's actually plenty of those. So just to let you know how my life kind of went. Growing up, I grew up in West County, Missouri, and we grew up in a nicer area with a lot of friends. And even though I was raised well, going to church every Sunday with my father, a big staple in the church, you know, I tried to blend in with my friends. So I did what my friends did. I started going to parties. I started drinking with them. I started to fabricate things with the alcohol, so I could keep the party going, if you want to say that. And eventually I got into bartending. So I moved up to Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, started bartending and serving out there, making great money. At one point I made $30,000 in cash, or $35,000 bartending. And then my boss goes, Joe, where's that money out at? I said, I think I owe Brant $500. So I'd blown through all that money just living the life in the bars and bartending and living on the water, going boating. And eventually, me and my friends decided to pick up and move all of our stuff and go to the Virgin Islands and go out there and bartend. And that is no place for a person who likes to drink, because you're allowed to drink while you're working. So fast forward, my body starts getting sick from the alcohol. I start getting pancreatitis. And I got very, very sick, and the doctor said, you can no longer drink. So eventually, I go back to my other job, bartending and serving at this restaurant, and this guy comes to me and he says, hey, Joe, I see a star in you. Most people who have this job have a college degree and all this, but I see a star in you, Joe. So I will, if you come work for me, I'll buy you a company car. I'll give you a company credit card. I will give you a salary job. And I said, absolutely. Me and my dad discussed this. My dad didn't even believe it was true. He's like, that sounds too good to be true. And at this time, I had many opportunities. People always saw something in Joseph, the way he talked, the way he acted, the way he connected with people. This is a big difference for me, because growing up in high school, and all through school, I struggled with academics. I'm not very good at learning. I'm good with people. I'm not good I'm not good at reading. So It was great. It was great that people saw a star in me, and they said, "Hey, this is a job." So I took the job. I'm going to remind you though that I still had that problem with alcohol. So I continue to live that lifestyle while I'm account managing. I'm making stops to go get liquor every once in a while. And then the boss asked me. He says, "Joe, come take care of the company out in this place we met you at." So I go out there. I take care of the table. They tip me $1,000 or $2,000. I'm back in it with all my old friends. And the next thing I know, it's Sunday morning, and I have to be back in St. Louis, a 4-hour drive home. And I'm like, I have to be back at work. Oh, no, I might get fired. So I decide to get in the car that he bought me, and I end up crashing the company car on the side of the road. More things happened. Basically, at the end of the story, I ended up in a coma, a 30-day coma. It was very, very bad, traumatic brain injury, broken femur, all of this stuff. And you would think that all the consequences I'm facing consequences for my drinking. All this is because of drinking. You would think that I need to change I'm like, hey, I need to stop. So instead of that, I get out. Yes. Instead of that, I get out of the coma, and the first thing I do, believe it or not, not the first thing, I start recovering. I start the recovery process, learning how to walk again, all that stuff. But as soon as I'm able, the first thing I do is not realize, I realized, but I went straight back to the bottle. I started to drown my sorrows, my guilt and shame of crashing the company car, the people I'd hurt with alcohol. So my solution was the same thing that was causing more problems. So it became a vicious cycle. And still with that job, throughout this motion, I was living at home for my recovery, and my parents now saw how severe my alcoholism had got. So I would lie to their face. I would tell them I had not been drinking. I would tell them all these stories that even with the pancreatitis, I would say, I have no idea how I got pancreatitis. One day I sat in the hospital. I waited 4 days before even going to the hospital so that the alcohol was out of my system, and 5 days later the alcohol was still there. I wanted to tell my parents that I had not been drinking, but the alcohol was still in my system, and it was very, very clear. So, I consider myself a very honest person. I consider myself not a thief. I'm not going to steal stuff out of you. That's just not true when it comes to alcohol. Alcohol changes the way I see things, the way I do things. I will do anything for that drink. So I'm going to fast forward the story a little bit. But that same company car that I had, I still had health insurance 2 years later, and I finally said yes to treatment. So I go out to Arizona. This is after a lot of, you're missing a lot in between there, a lot of drinking in between there and trouble in between there. But fast forward, I make it to Arizona. I go to treatment, and there was one fall, but then after I called my parents and went to my sponsor's house, who taught me how to get honest with myself, not to get honest with just everyone, but with myself, because that's very important as well. So I go to this treatment center where I breathalyze every single day. I take a pee cup, even though drugs are not a big part of my story, but they pee, they do a urinary analysis to make sure that no one in their premises is drinking or smoking or anything like that. And I did that for 1 year straight, and I got comfortable in my sobriety. I got comfortable without the use of alcohol, because in my brain, alcohol makes me dance better. It makes me feel taller. It makes me feel stronger. The ladies love Joe when the alcohol's in the system. That's in my head. So I go to treatment, and I get honest. I grow closer to God. I beg God for help, and I always tell all the clients and my sponsees this. I did not come to recovery for myself. I came here because I love my family. I love my family, my friends, and all of that. And I came for them, but I stayed for myself. And that is the game changer, because I've got 3 years of sobriety now, and I get to be the light for people who are struggling. I get to help show them how to get sober, how to stay sober. And for a lot of people, God is a touchy subject. So I have a very big advantage because of who my dad is today. Yeah, I saw God work through my parents' lives my whole life. So that was a no-brainer of who my God was. God is good, and He is all the time. You may not see it at the time, but it's just true. So today I sponsor kids. I work in a treatment center. I help them, coach them through ways to cope, ways to get over this. And coming into recovery, most people feel hopeless. They feel like they're at their end. They feel no sense of use. So I'm grateful to God that I'm here today, and this trip is crazy. The support I've had from all my people in recovery and all of that. I didn't want to, but I did a GoFundMe to let people know that I'm going to Africa to share my experience, strength, and hope. And my ego said, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to ask for money. I don't want to do that. I'm too good for that. But I did it anyway. My sponsor said it's a great idea. I did the post. It raised $3,000. And the biggest part about that, not the money's not the biggest part about that. The biggest part about my post is the tons and tons of kids and adults reaching out to me, asking me, I need help with my drinking, my drugs, I need help. So I'm blessed and honored and grateful that God is now using me, a ridiculous alcoholic, thank you, to be of service to my fellow man. So I'm grateful for this opportunity, and the guy who was singing was killing it. I was like, this guy is amazing. So amazing. I appreciate you all very much, and thank you for letting me be of service. So.
Now, just quickly tell us, what kind of people get trouble with alcoholic? The poor or what kind of people?
So yes, I forgot to include that in the story. So alcoholism is the great equalizer. Being in treatment in Scottsdale, Arizona, it's crazy because you'll see people from homeless on the street with nowhere to go to multi-millionaires. So even like a gentleman who I was in treatment with was 35 years old, worth $6 or $7 million, and he struggled just as much as the next guy. We had guys, celebrities, even who come in there, big celebrities come in through treatment. Money doesn't make you happy. Money doesn't bring you happiness. You know what I mean? So like you have no idea the variety of people who come in with just crazy money. And like when you think of an alcoholic, you might think of someone in the gutter. That is just simply not true. The alcoholic is your next door neighbor. It's your friend. It's your brother. It's your family member. And and there's a lot of guilt and shame that comes along with being an alcoholic. But today I don't have to live in that guilt and shame. And I love the fact that I can be of service to the person and be the light and be like, there is hope. There's still hope. Because whenever I came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I felt hopeless. I was the biggest letdown in my family. All of my siblings are so book smart, all this and this and this, and all I have is my personality, which I did love. But it was depressing, So I'm just super grateful. And the first 30 days of the treatment center I work at cost $30,000. That is $30,000 for just the first couple weeks. 4 weeks of treatment for the detox. It can be very, very expensive. And God provided for me not $30,000, but the avenue to make that happen. And today I just love being of service and continuing to give back to what's so freely given to me. And yes.
Thank you, son.
The Fellowship of Christian Youth.